All right, operations and systems questions. Okay, how do I find and build local operations teams? So, great question. This is any service provider. Either we already operate in that system and we already have, if it's a co-living property, we already know our contractor, we already know our handyman, we already know our cleaner, we already know if we need to send a specific electrician, roofer, we already know who those people are, right? If I invest in that market, for example, Atlanta, I already know who we're going to use for all that stuff so we can get stuff done immediately. If I don't know, then I want to work with another investor who's doing the same strategy as me in the same market and get their referrals. Who do they like as a contractor? Who do they like as a cleaner? Not only is it the same market, but also the same strategy, because it's different to clean an Airbnb versus a long-term rental when a tenant moves out versus a co-living property when you're renting out the rooms. It's the same thing. So it starts with, do we have the resources in that market? No. Okay. Do we know other investors that are in that market doing the same strategy? That is a big benefit of being in Super Investors, my mastermind community, or the A to Z co-living community, or even my free wealth to real estate community, because you're already in alignment with people who want to buy and hold real estate, whether they're earlier in their journey, they're actively doing co-living or trying to start or actively doing co-living, or they're at the phase where now they're just focused on scalability, raising the money, finding better great deals that are creatively financed, and then incorporating the co-living as well. Those are the people you want to connect with and ask. If you're already in other investment communities, for example, shout out to Sub2, my mentor Pace Morby in that community. There's so many investors all over the country doing the strategy that you want to do. When you focus on markets, the strategy makes sense, and the investor, and there's a lot of investors there, you get to tap into those resources. You get to speed up your learning curve. Instead of you making mistakes or spending days, weeks, months to find the right person, you're just leveraging all the work someone else did, and then you're providing value back to them as well, right? You're keeping their people busy, right? Which is great. But also, if you have resources that you can help them out with, great, do that as well. So we talked about your own, other investors, and obviously, if it's not like people you have relationships with or you're in communities with, you can always post, you can always Google search. That's like the third tier of it, right? Searching for local providers and looking at reviews and ratings and interviewing them and all that stuff. That's the way that we go. That's the sequence that we go in. And for anyone that's a super investor, you guys get access to my resources in those various markets, whether it's my asset manager who does project management, renovations, furnishing. She can give you all that information, operations, property management, literally everything in all the markets that we operate in. We're happy to help you guys. How do I manage properties remotely? Well, a big part of that is outsourcing a lot of the operations. You do not need to be doing every single thing. A big thing that's preventing scalability is you feel like I did several years ago that you need to be part of everything. I need to be the one that personally does the renovations, personally lists my properties, personally manages them. That is a massive detriment in your ability to scale. Sure, it saves you some money, right? Because it saves you some money because you're doing the work yourself, but that is also costing you from finding more great deals, raising more money to grow and scale your portfolio. So how do you do that? You find and interview great service providers, just like we talked about. You leverage what you already know in that market. You leverage other investors in that market doing a similar strategy, or you start researching and interviewing as well. What systems do I use for underwriting? Well, you guys already know the Super Investor Calculator. You should know about that. It's a staple of my entire investing business. It's the calculator I created over 5 years ago and have continued to improve and upgrade all the way up until now, and continually still upgrade as I'm doing more and I can add more to it. If I had like, hey, recreate this thing right now, I don't think I could, because it took years of doing and trying and improving and customizing and further improving to get it to the point that it's at. I don't think I have the bandwidth or the ability to just recreate that thing from the ground up. Why? It literally does everything. You can manage you can underwrite for every single acquisition strategy. You can literally analyze for properties that are traditionally financed, even cash. You can analyze every form of creative financing, whether it's sub-2, seller finance, hybrid, or Morby methods. All these are the most common strategies I use to acquire deals, in particular the creatively financed ones. I get to analyze all those on one spreadsheet. I don't need 6 different spreadsheets to do that. Next, it's very easy for me to understand. Same with the management strategies, right? I can analyze long-term, mid-term, short-term, and especially co-living rentals on there. Plus, there's a co-living tab that helps me break down what is my expected renovation cost? What is my expected furnishing cost? All of my expenses are included in there. All the sections for all your reserves, as well as property management, vacancy, maintenance, and capex is already in there. So it's very seamless for me to fill it out, regardless of management strategy, And the full version, the super investor, the full version of it, not the free version, also makes capital raising extremely seamless. So once you analyze a deal and it's a great fit for you, there's literally a tab over. You click on it and it says, hey, if you had a private money partner, these are the returns if you give them this much ownership split. If you have a private money lender and you offer them this interest rate, here's the overall returns for you. Is this viable, right? This is what it's all about. It's building the stuff and making it seamless, and you guys get access to the free version. And if you join the A to Z co-living community or super investors, you get the full version. How many people are on my team? Well, my team is probably different than your team now. Just like my mentor Pace Morby's team is much different than mine because his is much bigger than mine and mine might be bigger than yours. But as someone who owns over 70 properties, $25 million portfolio, it's still not this huge team that you would think. It's myself, and on the deal side, we have an underwriter to help do a lot of the initial deal analysis before I verify and validate everything and decide which ones we're going to buy. Then we have my asset manager slash project manager, which oversees some of the operational stuff that I was talking about. She oversees, hey, let's get the insurance quote or the inspection, review it. Let's get the insurance quote. Let's get the renovation quotes. Let's estimate our furnishing budget for it. Let's get those numbers more solidified. And then once we close on it, she also handles and oversees the actual renovations, right, with the contractor and all that. That's a key part of my business as well. I'm also training her and helping her grow into an investor relations role. For all of our capital partners, since she's the one overseeing the renovations and overseeing the property management, the different property managers, she also has the most direct access to the information that our capital partners want to know. How's the renovation going? Can I get photos and videos of it? Furnishings. Can I get photos and videos of it, right? Is it done? What's the timeline? Okay, we got the listings ready. Can you share that? How's the property being managed now? Any unexpected expenses? Any income things to discuss? Any vacancy things? Since she's doing that, it makes the most logical sense that of me being the one to provide those investor relation updates, she should be the one doing that, and that's a part of it. I've also recently hired someone who's going to be doing operations for us, as well as in-house transaction coordination, and she's going to help overall with that whole process. So basically, on the deal side, it's myself and an underwriter. For the cap raising, it's basically all me and systems and automations. You do not need a bunch of people except for the investor relations, which is then supported by my asset manager slash project manager slash investor relations, kind of all of the above, right? And then now the new operator who also oversees transaction coordination, the thing that you need to understand is you also need to outsource a lot of stuff. For example, we have a bookkeeper, right? We shouldn't be doing bookkeeping in-house. We have bookkeeping. We have a fractional CFO and we have a CPA. That's our financial team. We have property managers, right? That's our property management team. Those are kind of the two core things that need to be done by someone else. Same with transaction coordination, but at the volume that we're at now, it makes sense for it to be in-house. For a lot of people, you should be outsourcing a lot of that kind of stuff. And for super investors, you guys already know you get access to my project manager slash asset manager to help you out when it comes to, where are you stuck? That's why there's so many live support calls. And she does a support call inside of the A to Z co-living community as well to help you with that kind of same stuff. All right, cool. We're going to call it there. Appreciate you guys. Hope you had a great live office hours. Hopefully I answered a bunch of your questions. Keep dropping and sharing questions, especially in the wealth through real estate school community.